Good morning and welcome to the Camera Life podcast. It's 9 a.m. Victorian, Melbourne, Australian time, 15th of August 2024, and this is episode 26 of the Camera Life podcast. And we'll get to our panel of presenters in just a moment, but if you're watching along live at home or at work, don't tell your boss, but feel free to add comments, ask questions, join in the discussion. And we've also got, if you head to our channel, the Camera Life channel, we've got a back catalogue of our past 25 podcasts. We didn't celebrate the silver anniversary last, it's not really an anniversary, but this the 25th episode.
That's right.
And also, interestingly, Justin has been posting daily videos with his daily photography challenge. He's trying to get himself into a groove and explore new avenues of photography. Many of those without people in them, interestingly enough.
It's been tough. We're getting through it. Today is day 11, so I've already been out and shot this morning. Got out into the fog,
Right.
and wandered around town all by myself.
Nice. So you can check out those videos on the channel. And also we are available on audio podcast channels, Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. Is that correct?
We should be on Amazon. Yeah, I haven't actually tried to listen on Amazon, but we're supposed to be on there too. So I'll have to check that and confirm.
Right.
But we should be all good podcast places should have us.
Very good. So we've already heard from the man himself, Justin, and it's either Jim has stopped his beauty routine or it's Greg Carrick rejoining us.
G'day, everybody. Good to be here again.
Great
The
to have you
beard's
back,
real,
Greg.
Justin. You're going to have to pull your finger out, the beard, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm letting the team down. Man, it would take me 1,000 years to grow a beard, even as
I
big as
can't
yours.
catch Greg. I can't
Let
catch
alone Greg's is enormous. It's very impressive.
We're talking about my
probably
beard.
did you shave yesterday, Greg, or something? That's
Yeah, it's a bit neat there, Mr. Carrick.
Oh,
So
yeah, I shaved this morning, but it's coming
just-
up already.
overnight growth.
It's the 3 a.m. shadow. Welcome back, Greg. And for those of you listening or watching along, Jim is currently on leave, having a bit of a break.
Yes.
Justin's
We give him-
overworked him.
We give him 1 day off a year, and he's taking it today.
Yeah.
No, he's
4
in
days.
Queensland
It's
for a few
rude.
weeks. It is rude, isn't it?
It's very rude, but at least he's warm.
Yeah, I should have actually. Too late probably to do it today, but I should send him a link when we're live one time and see if he can give us a live update of where he's at. He'll be on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, probably enjoying the warmth. Although Victorian weather, for those of you that are not in Victoria, it's been quite, especially Melbourne, the last couple of days have been 20, 21, positively balmy.
Mild.
Been
Yelena,
fantastic.
part of the Lucky Straps team, has said, damn, where is Greg's flanny? Greg Carrick, that is. You think Jim would have left one in his place? That's very true.
I was wearing a flanny yesterday. So you're a day out.
Oh, spiritual.
Spiritual.
Very spiritual. Now, this week we decided not to get Greg Carrick is joining us as a co-host today. We decided not to get a guest in this week. What we decided to do was discuss a topic that's been on our agenda ever since we kicked off again a few weeks back. But before we get into that, I just want to have a quick chat with Greg about his activities this week. Just before we went live, I was having a chat to him about what he's been doing with his photography this week, and he talked about how he's been out and about as per usual with his camera always on him, and he took some accidental Aurora shots. Greg, do you want to just quickly talk us through that story again?
Yeah, I'm involved with a community radio station, Yarra Valley FM, and their studios at Hillsville. And one of my shows Monday night goes till midnight. So I had my camera along because I thought I'll go out to the local railway station in Hillsville, which is now like a tourist-run railway station. And I wanted to get the Milky Way above some of the old rolling stock carriages that are there at the station. because they're really old. And I thought that'd look great. And it was a nice clear night, sort of perfect conditions for it. So I took my camera out there and I set it up on the tripod and I'm getting the composition. I start taking photos and I'm looking at how good the Milky Way is, and what the light's like. And after 3 or 4 photos, I'm seeing this red glow above the carriages, and I'm thinking, is that a servo or the pub or something? There's some lights behind it. And took a couple of more shots, and the red glow's increasing, and it was the Aurora. So I decided, what the heck? I shot for another hour as the Aurora sort of increased and then decreased, and the stars moved, and it was really good until the security guard turned up.
Oh. Did you take a photo of him as well?
No, I had to explain what I was doing there. But,
wow. So this was obviously the night. When did you say this was?
Monday night.
Monday night,
well,
yeah.
Tuesday morning by then, 1 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, there's photos popping up all over the interwebs.
Yeah,
from this,
a lot of
this
people
event.
had some good shots of that.
Did you know it was a possibility, or was this just a right place, right time?
For me, it was right place, right time. I should have known because I've got this app website thingy that tells me the levels of solar activity happening. And that night it got to 7. Now, a couple of months ago when everybody was shooting the Aurora, it was 9.
Okay.
So it wasn't quite as strong, but stronger than people expected. So, yeah.
It's funny. I saw that pop up, and then myself and Jim and Grant, who's actually is in the chat at the moment. He's normally at work, but he's you can see his profile picture of Jim's face there. He says, "Morning, Justin and Greg's." Grant's home from work sick today, so he's watching live.
G'day, Grant.
Hello, Grant. So we had a little group chat about this potential Aurora thing, and we all basically wussed out and were like, the moon will probably drown it out anyway. The moon's going to be up, and I don't know, it's probably not worth it. None of us, we all just went to bed early like wimps, and then woke up the next morning to photos everywhere including I saw some photos from Mount Tarrangower Tower, which is in Malden, which is only 30 minutes from my house, and some people got amazing photos just from there. So I'm not going to let that happen again. Next time I'm heading out, and I'm sure I'll be disappointed, but it'll be worth it. I'll be able to say I tried.
I recommend people hunt up some sort of app or something that keeps an eye on these things and check it every day, because you never know what night it's going to go off.
Yeah, that's right.
There's been a lot of it this year. Lots.
I've lived here for, I'm 65, and all my life never seen an Aurora except on television.
Wow.
And now all of a sudden they're like
backyard almost.
They're like Melbourne trams.
They're everywhere, like bin chickens.
They all come in groups.
Did you?
I saw some bin chickens in Bendigo.
Well, I saw some this morning. Cohabitating with bats in a tree.
Oof.
There was like 30 bats and 1 bin chicken.
That's how COVID
together.
started.
I didn't even think of that.
It was the bats and the bin chickens. It was collusion.
Oh no, I'm sure if you say that word still on YouTube, you get pulled off. We'll see what happens.
Sorry.
No, we'll be right. Bin chicken. No, not that word. I saw on those files, I think on the file names, were you shooting with both your XE4 and the GFX for those Aurora shots? Is that what?
Yeah, what I was
there?
doing was I set up the XE4 to take, what's it called, when the camera just takes shot after shot after shot.
Time lapse, like interval.
Interval. Yeah. So I was taking 30-second long shots.
This is the XE4 here.
Yeah, with the XE4, and I didn't move that camera, so I've got almost an hour's worth of photos.
Oh, really?
And I'll string them all together, and they'll show how the Aurora came up and then went down and the stars.
Oh, wow.
But then I was using the GFX 50R.
This one's the GFX.
For my main photos. So,
do you remember roughly like what lens, what settings, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, this lens, which is a bit of a strange one, because I can't afford.
I wouldn't expect anything less from you.
Can't expect that from me.
I can't afford the expensive Fujifilm wide angle. So this is a Pentax 18-35 plastic kit lens from, I don't know, the 70s or 80s. and from an old 35mm film camera, and it does my wide angle work really well. So
Interesting.
that's what I was
Nice.
using for the wide angles.
Yep. Any
And what
idea
about on
of,
the
of
XE4?
settings?
Sorry,
Oh,
Justin.
no, sorry, Greg. I was just interested to know whether, like, how long you normally leave the shutter
Yeah.
open for something like that kind of thing.
Yeah, you work on the 500 rule. So 500 divided by the focal length of your lens gives you the amount of seconds before you get star trails.
Yep.
Okay, so for that lens, and I had the Samyang 12mm on my XE4. So I was able to use 30 seconds for both cameras.
Yeah.
That's a cracker of a lens. The
I
Samyang's been
love
around
it.
forever.
Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was one of the first third-party lenses with a Fuji mount.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Other than the Zeiss, the Toit trilogy. But yeah, that's an awesome lens for Astro.
I had
And everything else. I use that 12mm and photojournalism. I use that for crowd shots and everything. Because on the Fuji's, it's actually 18mm. So it's not too wide that it gets stupid looking. It's quite nice.
I had the Samyang 12mm full frame lens that is stupid wide. And I actually got some cool shots with that. And I think I had might have had a 14 as well. They did a 14 that was sort of more flat, and then they had a 12mm that was pretty fisheye. And I used both of them and had some fun with them. Cheap, sharp, good lenses.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a ton of them on the secondhand market now too.
Yeah.
They're readily available, which is great.
Yeah. I would imagine, especially for the older, like the DSLR mounts. So if you're happy to adapt them, those are probably getting less and less popular and cheap.
Yeah, I wonder if there is a bit of especially with the we talked last week about how Canon have started to announce some stock delays, stock delivery delays, and because everyone's, I think everyone's finally woken up and jumping to mirrorless. That's my view. I wonder how strong the secondhand Canon EF mount products are now.
I haven't
whether it's saturated, whether it's people still hanging on to them.
Held steady when it comes to prices. I keep an eye on the prices in case a bargain comes up. There's a 135 f2 Canon EF lens that was always really nice. It was quite light, so I've always kept an eye on them. They've held steady at about $700 to $800 secondhand for the last probably 3 or 4 years, I think. So they don't seem to be, but it's probably particular lenses. I don't know.
Is there more availability?
Don't know. I think there'd definitely be. Maybe it's a unique lens that people are still kind of keen on. I would imagine something like, an older 70 to 200, older 24 to 70, that kind of thing. Well, lenses are one thing. What I have been seeing is, I saw a 1DX Mark II, which is, I guess it is an older camera, but the 1DX Mark III has only just been superseded by the R1 as the official flagship.
Yeah.
The 1DX Mark II, like selling for $2,000.
Wow.
Which it makes sense because when spec for spec, like it's an older camera with a low res sensor and stuff like that. But that was a $10,000 camera.
Yeah.
Not that brand new, not that long ago.
Yeah, it was still a flagship body.
Yeah. And it's only like now 2 generations old.
Yeah.
It's like that stuff. People just don't really want it.
I guess if glass is cared for properly, it should hold its value pretty well. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have another look. I haven't looked too closely at something like a 24 to 70 2.8 or something like that, like a workhorse lens that there should have been truckloads of out there. Whether they're sort of, there's a million of them and they're getting really cheap. I'll have to have a look.
Yeah. Oh
Can
no,
you
you'll have to go on
kookaburras?
eBay. Sorry, Greg, what was that?
Got the kookaburras out the door.
I could hear.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Nice.
Lovely place to live, the Yarra Valley.
I bet.
All right. Now, Justin, did you want to give us a quick update on your 30-day challenge, how that's going, what you're finding, what you're learning about yourself and your photography?
What am I learning about myself? It's difficult to make something out of nothing, and that's why I started the challenge anyway. So I knew that. What I've learned is sometimes you just don't want to do it, so you have to force yourself out and get out there and make it happen. And even then, a couple of the days, I think the last video I put up is titled "Don't Watch This," because
That's the one I watched.
Yeah, maybe you want to watch it too.
That one tells me what not to do.
It's funny. I was telling someone about how tough that shoot was and what I titled the video, and they were like, that's going to make people watch. And I was like, that's a good point. I should have just titled it like day 10 or something instead of "Don't watch this."
You just need one of those thumbnails of you going, like doing something very dramatic. Yeah.
Anyway, it was just like I had trouble with the video camera and the audio as well, but also just, I don't know, I kept lifting my camera up to try and frame a shot up, and I was like, oh, nah, not that, and then move along and stuff. But then in most of the videos, I can there's a point where I if I get a photo that I don't mind, and I'm like, oh, that one, that's actually not bad. From then, the pace of like finding shots seems to always increase. It's like slow, and then I'm like, oh, I don't mind that one. Okay, and then things start to get better and better from
It's like
there.
a switch in your brain, isn't it?
Yeah,
you start to see it.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's just confidence or something from getting something that didn't look too bad. Remove a little bit of that self-doubt or something. But yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. And other than that, yeah, doing it every day, including making a video, is not easy. I'm thinking about changing the rules of my challenge in the middle of it to where I can post the video the following day rather than the same day. That would certainly make evening shoots a lot easier. Rather than
you're not feeling compelled to sit and edit.
Yep, get home and get it out before I go to bed. So I feel like that wouldn't be too much of a cheat if I did that. Basically, put it up within the day, the next sort of day, basically. But otherwise, I don't know. It's going well. I need to probably do more. I'd like to get out a bit more with and do some more people, because it's not specifically about not shooting shots with people in it. I've done a little bit of it. It's hard to organise that on a daily basis as well. Like, hey, who wants to have some photos taken of him? But I'd like to do maybe some street photography in Melbourne, and then maybe also a bit more. What I actually thought was whether there's some small businesses I know around town that probably couldn't really afford a professional photographer at the moment, but might be able to use some photos for social media, especially if, if I just cruise in there and do that, and if they're happy for me to film some of it, maybe that could be something to do that would be a little bit interesting for behind the scenes. And
before you know it, you'll be doing weddings.
Oh, no, not again. No, weddings, hey, doing this at a wedding would be really fun, but I don't know whether I would be in the mindset to film it and talk to the camera when you're like just stressed and focused about getting all the shots and that kind of thing. I don't know how that would turn out, but it would be interesting.
Yeah. I was at I photographed a concert a couple of months back for Fujifilm Australia, and I was shooting with it was just after the X106 came out. They wanted me to do street photography style shots of the concert and the band behind the scenes.
Nice.
And they had another guy there that they invited along. I can't remember. I don't know if he was shooting with an X100 as well, but he had a bracket in the thread mount on the bottom of the camera, and attached to that was an Insta360 camera.
Yeah, I've done that before.
And so it was, obviously it was seeing what he was seeing, but also looking back at him at the same time. It was really fascinating.
You could spin. You can spin it around in post production and stuff like that.
The content would be really interesting. But
I've done it when I was shooting a mountain bike event in Tasmania, and I never did anything with the footage. I find it really difficult. It's a lot of post processing with those Insta360 cameras afterwards. Like put all the footage in, reframe the shot fairly regularly because it's, you know, you're always having to move where it's pointing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I found the workflow for me difficult, and the quality of what you get out of there too in low light is quite bad. Or I shouldn't say that. Like it's amazing what they've been able to do with that camera, but you know, compared to a camera that's not shooting 360, it's definitely a lot noisier and stuff. So I've got it sitting here. I just haven't used it much lately, but maybe I'll whip it out again.
Yeah, if you're doing YouTube, it's like taking a drone with you. You know,
Yeah.
just for those few seconds of nice overhead shots, you got to carry the thing around all day. You got to have the batteries. You got to stop.
Yeah.
Extra processing later.
Yeah, that's what slowed it down for me is the processing and yeah, just sort of, I don't know. That's why I've kept it very, very simple with this challenge. Is like I've used either the GoPro or the Osmo Pocket 3, which is the little gimbal fella. And usually if I'm doing it, it's either of those cameras, but not both. You know, I'm not like putting the GoPro on the chest and then setting the Osmo over there and trying to get different angles and stuff. Yeah. It's just like one camera. Sometimes I hold it. Sometimes I put it on a chest mount, and then all the footage goes into Final Cut, start to finish, trim out some of the crap, insert the photos, and edit, and that's it. Whereas, if I sort of had... Oh, sorry, Greg, go on.
No, sorry, I interrupted you. I was just going to say, I applaud your ability to do all of that and carry a coffee at the same time. That's dedication to the cause.
It's the only way that I would be able to get out in the mornings and make it happen. You know,
he's got 3 arms.
Yeah, maybe he does.
I've just got this awesome jacket that I bought years ago from MacPack that's got pockets everywhere, including these really big pockets at the front that can hold, the pocket's big enough to hold this. I could put lenses in there if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I've got that in one side and then a few other bits and pieces, and I'm all kitted up in this giant jacket. I was thinking, because if I might continue this after the 30-day challenge, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll slow the cadence down a little bit. But I was like, what will happen in summer? Like, you know, because with the jacket, I can kind of put
you get one of those hats where you put the 2 beers, but you can put 2 coffees and a straw.
And 2 lenses.
That could work.
Yeah, or 2 lenses, or coffee and a lens.
And then a GoPro just on the front like that.
Yeah, and the little fan in the hood, in the cap that blows on your face.
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like wearing a GoPro, because at the moment I put the chest mount for the GoPro on and then I put my jacket over it and I slip it up to where the camera is. So I still look like a weirdo, but not too bad. But I feel like if I'm wearing the full chest mount thing and that's just over the top of my T-shirt while I'm walking around in summer, I'm going to look like a bit of a goose. But, you know, it's not all about looking cool, is it?
The Bendigo youth will tease you, mock you.
No, they would anyway.
Throw nangs at you. Hey, Greg Carrick, I seem to recall years ago, probably the first time we met in person was at a People with Cameras event in Port Melbourne. And I think you were wearing one of those old school, I don't know if it was a vest or a jacket, and it had all the pockets on it that photographers used to wear.
Yeah, I used to use that at times on my work, photojournalism, because I had one of those camera slings where you had 2 cameras.
Yep.
You know, and you pick different lenses on each camera. So I had that. I had this vest thing with 20 different pockets on it, and each pocket had a different camera or lens or something in it. I found it very handy because a lot of people get around with knapsacks, and I find knapsacks are a pain. They're always behind you, never in reach. You have to pull them off all the time. It's extra weight all the time, all on one spot, which is your back. Whereas these vests, I was able to distribute things around basically my whole body. And they were right there, accessible. Yeah, I've still got that vest.
You'll have to wear it on next time you're on the show.
Hey, good idea.
That was about 5 years ago. I can't believe I remember that. That was before COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was like 2019 or something.
Yeah, well, COVID basically killed off my work, so that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Had to hang up your vest, empty the pockets.
Yeah, that's right.
Very interesting. Very interesting. My week of photography has been pretty non-existent, other than, well, I shouldn't say that because I still do photography-related work, but I've mentioned a couple of times that I've been needing to get out for a shoot, and I just haven't been motivated. I don't know if it's the weather or if it's me. But I went out with Justin, Jim, and Grant last weekend before. When was that now?
Weekend before.
Yeah.
Yeah, weekend before.
And got a couple of shots from that I really liked. And then on Monday, I went into Melbourne, into the CBD, and I took my X70, my little fantastic camera, and I haven't even taken the memory card out to look at them. So I'm still in a bit of a funk, and it's been watching you, Justin, and you, Greg. I follow your stuff pretty closely too. Watching you guys challenge yourself with unique situations, just arriving with a camera and making whatever happen work. So it's certainly inspiring me. I just need to get out and do it, and I don't know what the motivation block is. When it comes to taking photos for my work stuff, for my articles, no problem. Happy to do it. But it's just heading out the door. It's interesting.
It is, because especially if you, I guess it sort of almost brings us to the topic that we had loosely scheduled for today's show, which is what, who are we taking photos for, or why are we taking photos?
Nice segue.
I guess. Yeah, great segue.
Hardly took 30 minutes.
That's all right. I'm sure the viewers are still with us. But if you currently don't feel like there's a reason for you to take photos, is that gonna slow down your or impinge your drive to get out there and do something? Because do you need to take them? Like, what are they for? Where are they going to go? Just,
it's a good question.
Put them on social media and then they kind of just disappear, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I often do shoots, and I'll edit them, and I'll download the JPEGs and put them into a folder on my desktop ready for something, whether it be to put a couple on social media. I'm a member of a couple of different street photography groups, just contribute to that, or whether I use them in one of my own personal blog articles that I write weekly about my photography life. It's a good question of who we shoot photos for. In the past, and I've talked about this on the show before, earlier on when I first joined, that for me, photography more recently was a therapy to get me out after personal loss, and I'm in a really, really good space now. It's been 11 years since that happened, and mentally and even physically, I'm in an amazing space compared to back then. And I fear there's a little kind of voice in the back of my head that says, "But what if you don't need photography anymore? What if you therapize? Therapize, is that a word? What if you're fixed? What if you don't need it?" But I still crave it. I still crave the experience. And I think, in the early days when I joined Facebook, when I was in Facebook and using Facebook to post my photos, I was all about getting my images on there. It wasn't so much about craving likes or comments. It was just about sharing my work. And, and often I'd add a little story to it or an experience or something like that. But then more recently, I just haven't been posting much to my socials. Every now and then I'll do a dump onto, not a physical dump, but I'll dump some images onto Instagram. My Instagram account's it's patchy at best in terms of where I post my photos. So I think maybe I've also lost a bit of that focus on who I am taking photos for. If it's not for work, then I don't feel compelled at the moment to take photos for anything. So yeah. What do you think, Greg?
I'm glad the therapy use worked.
Yeah, it did.
That is a very strong motivation for people to pick up all sorts of different hobbies or activities. So, especially if it gets you out and about rather than sitting in a room at home doing an activity, that's extra benefit.
Yeah.
So street photography is really good for that. So well done. I find, I was very busy doing photography work for a number of years as doing the photojournalism, and you're also always then taking photos for a client. So the photos had to make them happy, so that you could be paid, you know. So when you're working for clients in whatever field, you have to have output that suits other people, not yourself. Yeah, you might think this would look better in a different way, but the client won't like that, so I won't get paid, so I won't shoot. I'll do what the client wants. So you're always pumping out content for other people that to be happy with. And when COVID hit and the events dried up and my photojournalism just stopped, I had all this gear. I'm thinking, what do I do with it now? You know, I do like taking photos, but what sort of photos do I take now? You know, so I thought, okay, I'm going to have to find out what I like taking photos or what style I like, and that journey took me about 2 years. Trying different styles, trying different times of day, even finding out what I really enjoyed using my cameras for. And I initially thought, okay, am I then going to be a street photographer, landscape photographer? What am I going to end up gravitating towards? And that would be my style or genre. It turns out I like all of that. What I really enjoy taking photos for are projects. I'll do a seascape project, and it might last several months, might go for a year. I'll do street photography projects, that might last several months. So it's not really a genre that I'm attracted to. It's having a project. So you can build up, I suppose some people would say a portfolio, but I'm not using my photos as a portfolio to gain work or anything. So it's finding something that all of a sudden sparks some interest that I will follow with tenacity until I'm satisfied with the results I'm getting. And I never know when something will pop up to make me happy, to send me down a new path. Like I've got sitting right here, this thing. That is a slide projector lens. This green bit, and then I've got it on a helicoid that will fit on my Fujifilm cameras. Now, slide projector lenses are dirt cheap. I just come across them by accident, find them in an op shop, whatever, and all of a sudden I've got another project in front of me. I can take a couple of months where I explore all these weird lenses from slide projectors and have a lot of fun with that. I get quite self-absorbed by it because I mean, how many other people out there are going to go, oh, slide projector photos, big deal, it's a very personal sort of thing to follow.
Yeah.
But that's fine because this is what the main point that I've found. I'm not taking photos for anybody else except myself. I don't care how many people think this is interesting. Oh, slide projector lenses. 2 people might think, wow, this is good. That's fine. They're 2 extra people because I'm the one that I'm doing this for.
Yeah.
And this brings up a whole branching of things like social media. I used to have an Instagram account, but I gave that the flick more than a year ago. And I find a lot less stress in my life. I'm not so busy. I'm not so time pushed. I've got to get this stuff on Instagram,
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying Instagram is wrong for everybody, but it's wrong for a lot of people because they find that they end up under the pump. I've got to produce for other people to see my images. And then I'll watch, is this type of image getting lots of likes or not? How will I change? What's trending that I might be able to do to get more followers, you know?
Yeah.
And you end up pumping out all this content for people who look at it for a few seconds and then move on to something else and don't pay you for it anyway. What are you doing? You're working for nothing for a whole bunch of people who you're never going to meet. And if all of a sudden your stuff goes out of style or gets a bit behind, they've moved on to something else. You're left behind, you know?
Yeah.
So I find social media, especially things like Instagram, it's not the only platform that this is applicable to, but it's a very strange beast because the only sort of happiness some people get out of it are the validation of likes and stuff, and they end up sort of enslaved to it. Got to do this every day, you know, keep my numbers up.
Do you think that takes a level to move beyond that?
Yeah.
Because that's where I started. It wasn't so much, maybe it was some validation as well, that actually, because I had a lot of self-doubt about my work. So I was getting validation from others that my work was okay. You know, we're raised to seek validation in everything we do. But I think you reach a point of maturity or self-awareness or self-actualization where you no longer need to seek that. You don't need to seek those likes and those comments and that gratification unless you're running a YouTube channel.
Yes.
But what do you think, Justin? Where are you at on the who do we take photos for?
That's a bigger question. While it's in my mind because Greg was just sort of explaining it. A smaller component of it being the social media side.
Yeah.
I'm notorious for not posting on social media, which is, I don't know, like I've done a lot of cool photo shoots and taken some great images, and you sort of go back through my Instagram feed, there'll be gaps of 18 months where I didn't post a single thing. And I always felt like I should be putting the stuff up there. I'm not sure why. I just sort of thought, if I was more organized or whatever, I would be putting them up there, but I just don't because I'm not organized. So I felt compelled to do it. But I just didn't. And I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm now putting them up every day for this challenge purely because that I didn't know what else to do with them. You know, like if I'm going to take photos and put them out there every day, like where do I put them out there? So I was like, I'll put them on my Instagram profile. But it also kind of sucks because Instagram is like, it's a terrible place to view photos in terms of the actual medium. It's tiny. It compresses them. It's very hard to see the image in the way that I would like to display. You know, I'd rather walk someone up to a physical print, but we can't do that each day. To more than one person at a time or whatever. So that's something I think about a lot. It's like where can we put great photos? If you've got this amazing camera, amazing lens, you put all this work into getting the perfect shot, the right time of day, and then you put it on a tiny display of a phone on Instagram, and you can't even you can't even view it bigger. It's like it's just this tiny little thing. I'm not sure. That's what I've been thinking about a lot.
And I think with that compressed file and the size that we view it on, you know, being our phones mostly, and with the rise in AI created images, it's getting harder to tell the difference at that scale, especially on a site like Instagram, where you're doom scrolling and you're flicking through countless things that your brain may or may not take in. And then you come across an image and you kind of have to pause. Well, as a visual creative, you pause and wonder whether that's real or if it's fake. Or is it a composite or something? So I think it's, and we talk about putting photos out there. What is out there? Who is out there? And what do we want to achieve with putting stuff out there? And I think that goes back to Greg's point of, that he's taking photos for himself and he shares them. And if someone likes them, well, big whoop, that's great. Maybe they'll learn something from it. which is something I've always tried to aspire to. I think, you know, when I would post photos and I'd put little stories about how this was a difficult shoot or first time doing a concert or, you know, here's my camera settings kind of thing. I hope that someone can pick something up from that. So it's kind of a sharing of here's what I achieved and how, and maybe someone else will learn something from it. And I don't know if that's an arrogant mindset, but it's not a selfish one.
I think it's better than just photos on Instagram, because there's a process that you show people as well as the photos. On Instagram, they just see the finished result. On something like YouTube, you take them through a journey, sometimes literally, of what you're doing, where you're going, what the conditions were like. You talk to them, then you show them a photo. And to me, that's much more, I think, engaging for the viewer rather than just seeing a single image, which is why my stuff, people say, oh, where do I see your photos? Well, you don't really. I might put some on Facebook, but I do YouTube videos. I don't use Instagram or Twitter. You won't find single images of mine out there like that. You'll come across my images on YouTube, which is video. And most of the video is me doing stuff, and then you see the photo. To me, that's more satisfying because there's more to the story being told.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it raises the question when we talk about, you know, Justin, you mentioned about, you know, wouldn't it be lovely to walk someone up to a physical print that's large and behind glass and framed and sitting in a great spot to really appreciate the overall, you know, feel of seeing a physical image other than on a screen. But do we really print anymore? I mean, Greg, do you print many photos anymore?
Not as many as I should. I'm getting a bit of a collection of photos that I really like myself that I do want to print, and I've got some printed, but then I've also got to frame them now. So, and then I've also got to hang them somewhere. But yeah, the value of printing your images is immense. I remember the start of digital era, because everybody had their photos printed from their negatives. Digital came along, and all of a sudden, they had the option of having your photos but not printing them. And people were then saying, oh, all my old printed photos, I want them scanned and put in my computer. And no, the other way around, please. Get the digital files and print them. Have physical prints that you can hold in your hand. Because hard disks, I've lost thousands of images from computer crashes. In the past. Now I back up everything twice, sort of thing. But digital storage mediums are very ephemeral.
Have either of you guys heard of the social media platform Glass?
Nope.
It's for photographers specifically, and it's hang on, let me try and get out of here, and I'll bring it up on the screen in case people haven't seen it. It's paid. I'm not sure whether it's a thing.
Oh, you lost me there.
Oh no, yeah, exactly.
I like all the ads.
Well, this is the thing. It is, it's paid, but it's ad free. And it's sort of, this is their tagline, obviously at the top here, fall in love with photography again. Glass is a paid global community platform for photographers. No ads or manipulative algorithms. It's your home for photography. And
so it's basically a Flickr again.
Yep. But Flickr was free.
It was, but it quickly bottomed out.
Yeah, and that's where I think I like it's interesting to me is one thing that I find interesting is obviously, you know, they've put a lot of effort into being able to view the files at a higher resolution on a monitor or whatever. They've got apps and all that sort of stuff. And there's obviously a lot of photographers talking to other photographers. But then someone said, and it resonated a lot with me, they were like, basically, you're only putting your work out to photographers on this platform. Like
Yeah.
no non-photography person is going to pay a membership to this site and look at photography. So basically it's just photographers looking at other photographers' work, and you're not sharing it with the wider world on this platform. And that's interesting because, photographers with a special skill, I sort of feel like our job is to create work and then share it with people that don't have that skill.
Well, it's a form of art, isn't it? Like if all of the famous paintings of the world were locked inside a paywall, well, some of them are, but for the most part, galleries around the world are free.
Yeah.
And
look, I'm just checking it now. I do think it is possible to put your work up and link to it, and people can view it without the membership. So like it is a place I think where you can have like a portfolio. I'm just going in there now, but so we can see this guy's images, and I'm not signed in or anything like that.
Okay.
So he could link to it, but it doesn't have the benefit of, say, Instagram, where it can get discovered on the platform by someone who's not. But yeah, you could, so it's sort of, I don't know, it's just different.
It's a bit protective too.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of trying to keep photography alive on social, but keep it in a relatively safe space, which is what Flickr started out as.
Yeah.
It was a relatively safe space. You could build communities, you'd have astro communities and you'd have, science photography community, all these different communities in Flickr. But then it kind of, it opened up too wide and people just started posting filth and trash in it. And it declined rapidly from there on. But yeah, there is a level of protection in here for photographers who just want to provide, who want to, I guess, stay within a peer group discussing their work.
Looks like you can browse by camera as well.
Well, that's cool.
And it has the ability to take in metadata. It's got the settings and stuff like that.
Yeah, cool.
So, look, I think this could be a good thing, sort of a Flickr-style replacement for photographers maybe. Where it doesn't have that potential to turn into filth because it is a paid platform, so you're not going to get just sort of just random shit getting put on there.
Yeah.
But
and hopefully it's moderated better.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to know. I'm assuming they would have moderation, but it'd be interesting to know how much is required because, again, being paid, I guess, you're still going to get some weirdos out in the world, but that's a big barrier.
Sony shooters.
To the weirdos. What's that, Sony shooters? Ooh, like a Q3 gallery. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sign up to this. I'm going to pay the fee and sign up to it, create an account and start putting my daily shots on here. And I'll give you guys an update of what it's like on the inside.
All right.
Whether this is, this is a thing or not. It's interesting.
You can be the canary we send down the mine.
That's right.
Absolutely.
If I don't come out, don't sign up to Glass. You don't ever hear from me again. It's no good.
Back to the topic of printing, Justin. Do you print any images still? I know you've had a few shots printed.
Yeah, for sure. Our house it didn't have any for a long time. Now it's got quite a bit. I'd like to do some more. We had an Epson 3880 as our office printer, myself and Jim. Jim's got it in his office still now, which I could print from it any time I want, but it's even just the physical barrier of it not being in my daily office has slowed down my printing a lot. I used to print out stuff pretty regularly just because it was right there and it was easy to do. And I'm thinking about maybe investing in another one. Maybe just this was an A2 printer. I'd maybe just get an A3 to keep the cost down. And printing much bigger than A3, it's probably easier just to get a lab to do it. A lot of the stuff around my house was done at our print lab that we use, that Jim uses now for the wedding business. But I also do have a ton of 6x4s kicking around the house and my office from when I shot a lot of film, and I've got these packs of stuff from Japan, and like I've opened a lot of them, but some of them I'm just sort of saving to bust out and flick through. Obviously, I've seen the photos because I get the scans and everything, but then I just got them all printed. And one year I got a heap of rolls of film, a 35mm film to shoot on my Nikon F5 that's still sitting up there. And I also bought my whole family a heap of disposable cameras and gave them all disposables for Christmas. Yeah. And so that kind of Christmas and then summer holiday period, everyone was taking photos with the disposables, and I was taking photos with my my Nikon. And then I got them all. I printed every single frame, and then they're all just floating around. They've got a scrapbook that they're going to put together from all of it, but they still haven't. You know, it's one of those projects for a rainy day that hasn't happened yet, but the prints are all sitting there. I've got tons and tons just on my desk. I usually take a couple when we travel from my poor dog Ted that passed away late last year. But we took a heap of photos with him just from around the house. So I do print a lot of stuff, but no one really sees it other than me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, you've mentioned the word portfolio several times. And have you found that social media has helped your business at all?
Our wedding business, for sure. It was the thing. It was critical, and we put work into it. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, not really. Maybe in ways that I don't understand. I'm sure there might have been people I've reached out to when I was trying to build relationships with Flow Mountain Bike, who I shoot for now, and with Mint Tours, who I did snowboard photography for in Japan and New Zealand. I'm sure they probably scoped me out, a little bit. So there needed to be something on a social profile or whatever. But my personal one, I certainly didn't have much on there, so they couldn't have put too much stock in what was on there. But our official sort of wedding business account, Justin and Jim, we put a lot of time. One of our key marketing strategies for wedding photography was mainly on Facebook before Instagram was as popular. Was every Monday after the wedding, we would get an album of 30 to 50 photos up on Facebook, like really, really quickly after the wedding, which no one was doing then. I think everyone does it now. And then everyone would look at them, tag each other in them, comment on them, and those things would certainly help spread the word about what we did. Yeah. So yes and no. In terms of a portfolio of work, I would much rather have that living on a website, which I currently don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. I found social media, because of my field, working with media itself, social media didn't help with a portfolio at all. Didn't pick up a single bit of work, mainly because media isn't looking at Instagram or whatever. They look at other media. So the only way I would pick up any extra clients is because they see my work in their own area of work itself. But I would suspect, like yourself, Justin, if you're doing weddings, then you would want as big a social media presence as you could get.
Yeah, still not critical though. Word of mouth referrals is, you could build a whole business just on word of mouth referrals if you do a good enough job. But yeah, for something like weddings, you'd be crazy not to add to that with a decent social media presence of some sort. But but yeah, like I said, like any of the other stuff that I've done, it's all just been networking essentially. I don't know what networking. Just talking to people. And then trying to do work for them for free, and then do more work.
It is funny how people rely on word of mouth. what used to irritate me, but I've come to realise what the upside is. You go on Facebook and somebody will post a question, is there a plumber in the area? And I'm thinking, why don't you just Google it?
Just Google it. Exactly.
But what they're actually after is people recommending.
A referral.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A plumber I can trust who won't overcharge me and will show up on time and be nice to deal with. Yeah, that's what they want to know. And that's super
Because I
valuable.
think the thing with that, Greg, is that when you do Google it, they all have these glossy websites with full of promise.
Yeah.
And yet, more often than not, the guy that shows up still got his pants halfway down his ass and, you know. And,
Which, I mean, that is standard.
It says he doesn't have
like
the parts for the job. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a part of the gig.
The other tough thing, I think, I'd love to know if other people have found this. I've found that with the way Google works and the way SEO works now and how tough it is, I know this personally because we used to rank really, really well for camera straps because our entire website is about camera straps. It is what it is. Like, that's all we do. It's our core business. And then in more recent years, like, we can't outrank bigger websites like Temu and other things like that because they're just massive. Even though camera straps is a tiny part of what they do and they have almost no information about them on there. And I've found, you know, with things like, say, plumbers, that first result that you might get isn't even in your town. It's some like conglomerate website that might advertise a heap of different types of plumbers or whatever, or it's just some shitty information site that doesn't give you any real value. But because it's so big, it's outranking like local plumbers. And I know Google's probably working to try and balance that out, but I'm often pretty skeptical of anyone that can rank first. I'm like, this person's spending more on SEO than they are on whatever service they're providing. That's how I often look at it. So it does make it tough.
Yeah, a lot of the smaller online media sites, regardless of what you're interested in, like for me, it's, you know, I watch a lot of gaming stuff because I like video games, and so does all my family. And a lot of those guys, with the more recent Google changes from SEO-rich content, that they've found that, you know, Reddit is just dominating because of the volume of traffic. It's not about the quality of content; it's about the number of, you know, clicks and eyeballs on the prize. And a lot of these smaller media outlets have, like, their traffic and their eyeballs and their clicks have just significantly slashed.
Yeah.
With the more recent changes in Google. And so the smaller businesses and the smaller outlets or groups, whatever it is, they're struggling to get attention again.
Yeah.
So there does need to be a better balance. It can't be all about whoever pays wins. Surely.
It's what it is at the moment.
Yeah, I know.
We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, in terms of getting your images out of the world, that's where I'm stuck. How do we do that? Or, you know, what's
Well, to
the
me,
way that we can-
I still think, do I have that itch that needs scratching? I don't really. I still do my YouTubes because that's an enjoyment thing. It's almost self-indulgent. Yeah, you spend several days making a YouTube, and it ends up with 300 views. And I think, as a business case, that's ridiculous. But as a personal hobby, just for fun and enjoyment, that's fine.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. And I think, I know with me, from my big trips, like to Japan, because they were kind of highlights for me, and I would take, I think my first trip to Tokyo, I took 7,000 photos in like 8 days. You know, part of the enjoyment wasn't necessarily sharing them. I mean, that came into it, but it was also about going through them and editing them and remembering where I was and what I was doing and what my mindset might have been. And, you know, and often I printed a few of my photos quite big, some of my favorites. Others I've just printed, you know, 4x6s. I've got a huge box of them upstairs somewhere. But even those, I think I've showed them to like 2 or 3 people. But I think it was more for me just to have something physical that if I wanted to, I could put up. And the other thing I did was I made some photo books. I had some really nice ones printed. And the first one from that big first trip to Tokyo, I'd made a very thick photo book with almost half the images in it, which was ridiculous. And then in my last trip, I chose 35. I don't know why I chose 35. I chose 35 of my favorite shots. And I did a book for color and a book for black and white. And there was only like 35 pages. But again, they sat on the coffee table for a while and then they kind of get put away and or someone spills a coffee on them or but I think printing, I really like having I like having my prints, but I just don't do it. And I don't know whether the investment in a printer is right for me, whether that would motivate me to print more of my own stuff.
Have you had one before?
Not a photo printer, no. I mean, I've got a big W down the road. It's, for crap quality, quick turnaround prints.
That's right.
The
pain of printing is hard to explain. I've wanted to throw that thing through the window so many times when you set it to a certain setting and you set it to A2, and these sheets of paper are expensive, an A2 sheet of like expensive photo paper, and it prints a 6x4 on the corner of it, and you're like, why? You check all the settings, why? And you just want to smash the thing, but I did a 1-day printing workshop in Melbourne, I think with KL or someone like that. I can't remember the guy's name that ran it, but he was like a master printer type person who helped, prepare fine art images for competitions and stuff like that for people. So it was all about profiles and color management, but also refining your edit, before to get the perfect. He was the person that taught me what black point and white point was in editing. Because I knew what they were, but I didn't know. He was like, his simple answer, and I know someone will probably say, "Oh, it's not true," was every photo has a black point. Not every photo has a white point, because white point's where it hits to full white. And if you don't have like point light sources or something like that in there, once it's hit full white, it's lost detail. And not every photo has that, like a light or something in it. Or a bright reflection or whatever. It's like, but every photo should have a black point. And if you're not at your black point, which is the bottom of the histogram, if anyone hasn't seen it, where it touches black, you might be not getting your full dynamic range and contrast. So sort of, teach you how to set that. You can then, there's an overlay in Lightroom so you can see, oh, have I lost everyone? What's happened? Wow, I'm here by myself. Anyway, I'll keep telling the world about this. There's an overlay in Lightroom, one of the shortcuts you can press to get, to visualize how much of the photo is in your black point. Hang on, I got Greg Carrick back. Where did you go?
On alternative reality.
Oh, how was it?
It was quite depressing.
It was depressing. Okay. Oh, hang on. We've got other Greg back as well. Here he is.
Sorry, I just got kicked out.
Yeah, what happened there?
That story was really shit.
I thought I actually wondered that. I thought you were
getting bored. Yeah, he's talking about printers again.
We're out here.
Just turned it off.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry, mate. We didn't mean to leave.
No, that's all right. I kept on trucking. Anyway, I learned a lot from this print workshop about editing, color management, and printing, and that certainly it gave me. This might be interesting for you, Greg. It actually gave me. I was passionate to print photos, whether it's something I'd taken back in the past. So, say instead of you going, I know going on a photo walk would be more fun and stuff like that. Get outside, but you might find joy in spending an hour printing some old images, and the process of that. fine tuning the color, doing a test print, going, that's not exactly what I wanted. I might try it on a matte paper instead of a gloss, blah, blah, blah. And playing around with the mediums and then printing it out and then just putting it in a cheaper A4 frame on the wall or whatever. There was a place, I think they still do them. There's a place in Bendigo that made really nice A4 frames for like $30.
Yeah.
So I used to just, I'd go in and buy 5 of those, all the same color, same style, just keep them in stock, you know, in my house.
Yeah.
And whether I printed something for a gift for someone or to hang on my own wall or whatever, I could print and frame it in a pretty short amount of time. And it was a fun process. And then, you know, when you're out shooting and you get that nice shot, you're like, oh, I might print that, see how it looks. So I do recommend it. Print is a big investment. It'll make you want to smash it multiple times. Try not to. And it is easier just to send it to a reasonable lab or something like that. And I would probably recommend that for anything of significant size.
Yeah, of course.
And let the lab do the color management, everything.
Yeah, I've got a photographer friend who nerds out with printing, and he's known in the photo group as he's the printing expert. So if I want something done, I'll just take it to him. He's done all the worry, he's done all the expense.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
I think
great.
That's a key thing about what we're taking photos for. Like I know people who take photos and hate the editing process. And they didn't necessarily start on film. They just dislike that process of sitting in front of a computer trying to work out. Man, maybe it's they're not as tech savvy, or it's they don't have the right software, or they can't afford the subscription to Adobe or whatever it may be. But for me, that's just as important a part of the process. And it's not that I shoot haphazardly, knowing that I can fix things in post. That's not what I'm referring to. I still take the time and the care to get the shot right in camera. It's just, I really enjoy that whole, that I know that I can go home and I can, pop the memory card into the computer and I can go through the files and work out which ones I want to keep and don't want to keep, and start the editing workflow, which I'm always refining. I'm always changing it. I'm playing around with Lightroom presets and the Fujifilm film simulations and creating my own film simulations from those. And I love that it's just as much a part of the creative process to produce the end product, which is the image.
Yeah.
But it's what I do with the image afterwards that, we all seem to, I think we can all probably agree that we're not quite sure what to do with them yet.
For sure.
Or where to put them. And whether it's we don't, that Greg Carrick gets the satisfaction from taking the photos for himself, or whether it's for a client, whether it be a mountain bike company or a wedding client, or Jim with his boudoir photography, whether they want them on, whether they'll be using them to publish or use for memories or whatever it may be, or whether it's just to share on social media. I think it's still a question that's really tricky to answer. But another question that I have for you guys is, we touched on earlier about AI influencing photography and videography more now, and appearing more and more on social media alongside traditional digital shots. But with the rise in AI photography, do we as photographers have more responsibility, or any responsibility, to post traditional photos to show that there is a reality that we still need to cling to?
Well,
does that make sense?
Seeing as I'm taking photos for myself, I don't really care that much. But the only thing about AI that I find is it's really annoying that you're going through Facebook and all of a sudden some image will pop up and straight away it's fake. But all of a sudden you look at the comments and, wow, isn't that fantastic? All these people, non-photographers, are just blown away by this image and they think it's amazing. And you think, that's not even real. I put up real photos and no one says anything, And I have to explain to my friends, do you know, you like this photo, it's fake. Oh, how can you tell? I think, oh my goodness, AI is not that good.
Yeah, and that girl's got 6 fingers on her right hand.
Yeah, that's obviously a composite photo of 3 others.
Yeah.
People
makes
are
me
so
wonder.
unaware of what's real.
Yeah, well, people like to believe what they're fed because it means they don't have to think. That was pretty deep for Thursday morning.
That was very much, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Went very dark there for a minute. My horn stuck out a bit. But it makes me wonder, we saw it from film to digital where everyone like, oh, digital photography is going to take over and, what's going to happen to film photography? And we accepted it and we moved on with it. And obviously we all love it. But then with the rise in smartphone camera technology and processing technology, there was a fear amongst our community that people wouldn't hire photographers because they thought that, well, I can get that on my smartphone. And I've had that example for someone who asked me to quote for a job and I told them what it was and, they thought they could do better themselves. So whatever, it's your event. But, is there a risk to real photographers that AI art or AI photography and image composition could supersede us, could replace us, put us out of business or,
Yeah, in certain fields that's already happening.
Certainly,
and will just get worse.
Certainly, if you want to be famous on social media for images that pop on a tiny screen, you can already see, like you say, those ones that you scroll past, and it's like it's like a scroll stopper, they call it, because it's so fake, essentially, that it's
too perfect.
It's too perfect, and it's that's the sort of thing, like love him or hate him. That's the sort of thing that the photographer, super famous rich photographer Peter Lick, that guy. His images had that usually about them, almost like this. How did they do that kind of thing? Yeah, and that's probably why some of his images sold for millions of dollars. But now that stuff's popping up on social media all the time, but in a way that it's even more like, not even how do they do that, but like that place isn't even real. Like that lake doesn't exist. It's just some blue lake that they've inserted into a mountain scene with a sunrise and an aurora and the stars, and this didn't happen.
So that's like stock photography.
Exactly.
Stock photography is dead now. It's AI.
Exactly.
But weddings, I've seen some people say, "Oh, AI your wedding." Get real. That'll be one of the last things. That'll never happen because the wedding is a one-off event with one-off people. You cannot do that with AI. You have to have a photographer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things where it's like weddings, sports, current events, all that sort of stuff. AI is not going to change any of that. It might make people might start messing with photos in that kind of fake news kind of way, more so for clicks and that kind of thing. But I don't think it's going to replace photographers' jobs. Yeah, exactly. All that kind of stuff.
There was a photographer a couple of years ago, Lisa Sard, and she was an award-winning photographer. I think that was her name. She was an award-winning photographer, and there was a big controversy because she won an award for like photography for photo of the year or something, and it turned out it was a composite. It wasn't. I don't know if she stole someone else's work or if it was actually a composite, but she claimed it not to be, and then someone pulled it apart and looked at the metadata and the file and worked out that actually it was, it was a composite image. And that's kind of like an early sign of people using technology to manipulate photos. And we all do. We all edit photos. Well, Justin's not doing that at the moment. He's going straight out of camera. But, we all manipulate photos to some degree. And where do we draw the line? Like we have AI denoise in Lightroom now. And I don't like it. I don't like the way it cleans. It's almost too perfect, the way it cleans up images.
Yeah.
I'd rather go black and white, slap a bit of grain on and call it art. Like it's just keep it really simple. But
that brings up another side issue that probably won't get into now, but the clinical perfection of modern lenses. They've gotten so good now that people are using glimmer glass and stuff
Yeah.
to bring back some imperfection.
Yeah.
Mist filters.
Mist filters, yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
find that amazing. They're spending $1,000 on a lens, and then, oh, it's too good, I'll have to dim it down a bit.
Yeah,
Exactly. Get out a rock and scratch the front of the glass a bit.
Yeah.
Get Off My Digital Lawn, as otherwise known as Tony, has commented, is that kind of like some of Chris Benny's stuff? Chris Benny's a automotive photographer in Australia. He's actually a Lucky Straps user, one of our early adopters from years ago, and his images are those ones that you scroll past and you're like, holy crap, like that's amazing. But even from the very early days, I'll bring up some of his stuff. He was very heavy into Photoshop. He's a master of it. He's actually more into video now than anything, but like he's a car photographer that gets paid by some of the biggest. And yeah, if you saw that, if it wasn't done by someone like him, you could possibly say, oh, that's an AI generated image and they've just sort of slapped a car in it or something like that. But when you see the behind the scenes of how much effort goes into these shoots, then you know that it's real. And that's where it's going to get tricky, because an untrained eye might see something and be like, oh, wow, that's amazing. But you know when it's coming out of something in the level of these productions, you know, that the work that's been put into it, you know, there would have been a team on this shoot. It would have taken days, and it would have cost a lot of money. But it is hard, because on a tiny little screen on a phone, you can get tricked into thinking that something is, an epic photo when it's just AI generated.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was, it's interesting.
It is.
But your original point, Greg, which was, do we have a responsibility as photographers? I don't know. I don't know about a responsibility. Like, it's possibly almost going to be like, you know, fighting against a tidal wave with some buckets. It's probably not something you can really combat, other than just by doing what you know to be true to what you want to make, and it'll go where it goes.
Yeah.
I think if you're sort of constantly posting on social media about AI and stuff like that, it's going to distract from you making the content that you should be making. And it'll find its way, like you say, similar to film versus digital and all that sort of stuff. I do find it fun doing these daily challenges where I'm posting the JPEGs and I'm filming myself doing it. So it's very real to me.
Very
like there's no question. Yep. It's like, hey, you saw me take this photo. You saw the settings it was, and then I posted it, and it might be a little bit crooked or something like that because I wasn't holding the camera completely straight. Normally that would take 2 seconds to fix in Lightroom, but you're going to see it exactly as it was taken. And that's why I enjoyed posting the straight out of camera JPEGs. I think it undoubtedly makes you a better photographer. It doesn't mean editing's not part of it, but if you are putting the work out straight out of camera, you're going to take more care each time you take a photo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like going back to film, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. Just not quite as much consequence. You know, you're not paying for each shot and all that sort of stuff.
You're not getting a contact sheet back and realizing that you destroyed every photo, you know. Yeah. And I think what's been good about watching your daily challenge videos, Justin, is the mindfulness that and I know that you're narrating what you're thinking, what you're doing, and what you're experiencing, but also just the mindfulness. Like you're not just pointing and shooting at everything that has a bit of light on it. Like you're being very considerate about, and you're even choosing not to take the shot.
I was going to say, it's actually funny because I watch some of the videos and I often think, should I have taken that shot so that people could see like why I didn't think it was going to work or whatever? Because a lot of the time in the video you'll see me, and because the microphone's right here too, you can hear me breathing as well when I'm walking around, and then you'll see me like lift the camera up and I'm like And then I'm like, nah. And then I
They're
just
the bits
move
I
on.
enjoy the most.
Yeah, it's the heavy breathing. I
It's the
listen
heavy
to that just as an audio podcast at night.
Put yourself
But no,
to
I think it's
sleep.
good. I think it demonstrates that, because I know with your sports stuff and your mountain biking stuff, you'll shoot in a fast burst,
Yes.
and
yep.
so that you can, because your brain can't see and think and shoot and frame and compose that fast.
No.
You get the basics of it, but the camera needs to do a bit of the legwork there with those sorts of environments and settings.
Yeah. Especially when it's for a client and it's like,
Yeah.
I can't. And when you've got a bike rider who's doing laps of this feature to get the shot, I can't just like keep sending him back up because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I think I could do
Go
better.
again.
Can you go and do
again.
that again and
Yeah.
again and again? So
Yeah.
there's
You got to
there's
make
that.
it work. Yep. But I like the mindfulness approach of, am I going to take this shot? Aren't I? And I think, street photography, and one thing I've found interesting watching you is that, and Greg can probably attest to this, that with street photography, sometimes you're just not in the right spot and the light's falling in the wrong direction and the person's already walked into the shadow. And so, you just walk away.
Yeah, AI it later.
I'm going to insert the man with a briefcase walking in the sunny spot with a shadow. I'll just pop that in later.
Yeah, but it'll be fine. But yeah, I think there's that, and I think that the other thing with who and what are we taking photos for is that sometimes people will just point and shoot at everything, and deal with it later or not deal with it later. But I like that approach, that mindful straight out of camera approach. I think it's really important that everyone give that a shot. Switch off RAW, go to JPEG. It will make you a better photographer. It will teach you about getting your exposure right the first time. And that's something that we all learned shooting film, the hard way, the expensive way, the wrinkled fingers from chemicals way. It will make you a much better photographer. You'll frame better. You'll make sure that your frame is straight, not worry about cropping and rotating later.
Yeah.
All of those things. You can edit JPEGs a little, but you can't push and pull them like you can with RAW files. And there's a lot to learn from that.
Before I pull up Nev's comment, no, I just on that, the photographer that I actually learned a lot of that from, and I don't know how much teaching he does anymore, and it's probably not that relevant if you're not into portraits or weddings, but I applied to all my photography. Photographer by the name of Jerry Jonas. He was actually from Melbourne. He's now like a Hollywood photographer, but when I was learning, he was like the wedding photographer to the rich and famous in Australia, and he used to like. This is going to be funny. Do any of you remember the band Savage Garden?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember when they won like every award one year for that, when
Yeah,
they had
I
that
do.
album out and they won 10 arias or something like that. That's what Jerry was like at the awards, the AIPP awards and stuff like that for years until he sort of started judging instead. It would just like, everyone would be like, oh, what's Jerry put in this year? And everyone see his photos and be like, oh, fuck. He's gonna win everything again.
Might as well just leave.
yeah, exactly. So I did a workshop with him, and I also subscribed to he used to bring a film crew to a heap of weddings back before it was as easy to film YouTube videos as it is now, and he would get them to shoot the whole day, and then you could watch it either with or without his commentary that he recorded later on, and so you could either hear him talking to the couple or you could hear him talking over the top of it later on in his studio saying, so what I was looking for here was to move them over there because of the light and blah, blah, blah. He was huge on shooting JPEG and getting it right in camera and getting your crop right in camera, your framing straight, don't crop off hands, that's where I learned all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I sort of learnt it from him, and then Jim and I used to edit our photos side by side in the studio, and we used to roast each other when we did something dumb like that, like how crooked, if one of our frames was crooked, or if we chopped their hands off or chopped their feet off or something silly. So there's definitely a lot to be said for not just mindlessly correcting it in Lightroom and actually going, why did I do that? That was silly. I should have just straightened my frame up, or why didn't I take 2 steps to the left so I could block out that rubbish bin or whatever, instead of just removing it and moving on with your life. You'll definitely get better.
those that don't like editing, it's the ultimate way to go.
It's way better.
You know, and plus, you know, if you really want to go really, really simple, you know, like I'll speak about Fujifilm because that's what I know best. You know, they've got this app, smartphone and tablet app now, that you can transfer your JPEGs straight to the app, and you can edit them on your phone, or you can do some minor edits on the computer when you export them, on the camera when you export them. But it makes it a really simple workflow to just have your camera and your smartphone, shoot in JPEG, and if you do need to share them with, if you do want to share them with social media or with you know, friends and family, it's really easy to do. You don't have to have a computer to be a photographer.
Yeah. The Leica Photos app is also exceptional in that regard. That was one of the reasons that I shelled out for that Q3. Compared to, I don't know how Canon and Nikon and stuff haven't. They're far bigger, and I don't know why their apps and their camera connectivity is so crappy. I don't know what Fuji's is like. It sounds like it's better. But yeah, the Leica one,
the app has always been
easily.
problematic. The app's, yeah, it's had a pretty rough history. It hasn't always been as reliable or as capable as it should be. The latest version, which is now, it was the Fujifilm camera remote app. Now they've got this Fuji X app, Fujifilm X app, and it supports more of the newer cameras. I think the oldest camera it supports is the XS10 and the XE4, but anything prior to that, like X Pro 1, X Pro 2, it doesn't support those, but you can still use the old app for those. But it also has this feature on the, which I find kind of interesting. I wouldn't use it, but you know, it records your activities and your location. So it does the geotagging thing with your phone, but it actually sets up kind of like a diary. And so it's an app on your phone, and you can download your photos, and it will record all of your camera settings. It will say where you were. You can add notes to it. And it looks like a calendar. It looks like a diary, you know, with the date at the top. And that app also tracks your activity. So what camera you used, how many shots you've taken, what lenses you use. So in that respect, if you're someone that really likes to analyze what you've done and how you've done it, especially if you're new to photography, it's kind of a nice idea because it tracks it all in a really handy place. So if you're new to photography, and my advice to new people, when I'm talking to new people that are new to photography, is go out and take some shots at this ISO, this aperture, and you know, this shutter speed, and then come back and look at the photos and work out what went right and what went wrong. And then take note of the settings you had on the ones that went right and note of the settings of the ones that went wrong. And then you go out and you try it differently again the next time. And that's how you're going to learn how to master your camera and your exposure triangle or exposure square in Greg Carrick's case. But yeah, the app is really handy because and then from there you can bounce it straight to, you know, socials, email, your website, whatever it might be. But yeah, shooting in JPEG is definitely a good learning tool.
You mentioned
Clark has got some good AI stuff here. I don't know if we want to dig into his few comments. Nev was on the podcast last week. It's a great interview. It's going.
Hey, Nev.
Great. Hey, Nev. Nev says, I can see it in the shadows. This is in regards to AI images, I assume, popping up on social media. If you look at the trees in an AI photo, the shadows are, I think that means often in the wrong spot. It's bizarre how much adulation they get, but I think it will die down with time. And then he continues. Interesting how much AI is built into a camera as well, with things like auto eye detect, and then the new R5 Mark II and R1 we were talking about last week that have got AI autofocus tracking for sports and things like that. And then following into, I've really enjoyed Justin's videos this week. Thanks, Nev. Giving me lots of thought-provoking stuff as well. Maybe that's the answer, to go completely opposite to AI, authentic photography. Maybe that's a term. I don't know if it's, and it certainly doesn't need to be like, hey, if you don't shoot straight out of camera, you're not authentic or whatever.
You're not an artist. Yeah,
it's a great way to take any of that out of the equation if that's the way you want to go. Same as shooting film. You know, like it just sort of deletes all of those questions, and then you just can focus in on what you want to focus on. I've actually thought about it a bit as well, because I think the Leica M11P or something has this new protocol, copyright authentication protocol or something. I don't actually know. Have you heard anything about that, Greg?
Yeah, I have with Fujifilm. When they announced the X100S, and I think the the GFX 100S Mark II, and when they also announced the X100 Mark VI, they talked about this new authenticity program that they're setting up, a certification for the validity of a photo that's comes out of a Fuji camera.
Yep.
That there's a way that it kind of stamps in the metadata that can't be foiled, can't be faked, and can't be manipulated without that stamp being impacted in some way. So it certifies that this is a Fuji shot. It's real. It came out of the camera, especially in media, and and obviously competitions and things like that. It's important to have that authenticity.
Oops. This is the one on the Leica website, and I don't know if that's the same thing. It's called the Content Authenticity Initiative, CAI. And their M11P has that encrypted metadata in compliance with CAI, provides an additional layer of transparency to the conception and modifications of an image file, bringing awareness to the file's provenance. And I feel like that is something that's going to become more and more relevant if it's adopted by Fuji, Canon, Nikon. Is this going to be used in photojournalism to sort of prove that something happened when they're saying it happened? And is that, is this going to sort of get, I don't know, is it going to get integrated with the whole crypto blockchain NFT kind of thing to, authenticate original images that were taken at a specific date and time that can't be faked? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, Fujifilm. It was in May this year. Fujifilm joined the CAI. The CAI said
that's confusing.
It is. We're thrilled to welcome Fujifilm, one of the world's leading camera manufacturers, as a member of the
one of them, of many.
As a member of the Content Authenticity Initiative, joining more than 3,000 media and technology companies. So technically, they're late to the party.
Okay.
But so there's all these different standards. They also join the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, which is C2PA. It adds provenance to digital content, enabling content creators from journalists to artists to attach tamper-evident metadata at the point of creation. So I think that's something, and I obviously Leica and Fujifilm are seeing that.
This is
and
relevant.
maybe it's a liability prevention thing for them. Maybe it's a little bit of survival. I don't know. Or maybe it's just what photographers are demanding.
I was going to say, I think it's a little bit of that, where it's like survival in terms of like if every photo popping up on Instagram is AI generated, how do we keep inspiring people to pick up a $15,000 Leica M11 and post photos that maybe aren't getting as many likes as what this AI generated thing are? Well, let's give them a thing where they can tell everyone, hey, this is it. This is the photo I took. Real. There is nothing fake about this. So I wonder whether it's forward planning, possibly in that, but also possibly there's going to be very professional ramifications in terms of, if someone claims a photo's faked, which I believe happened. I think don't want to get political, but I'm pretty sure Trump claimed that a rally photo from the other lady, Kamala Harris, the new candidate, he claimed that there was no crowd. And then
no one there. It's all fake.
And then all these other photographers and videographers that were there have sort of said, well, here's a video of me panning around the crowd. I don't think this was AI. So I haven't heard what happened with that, but for example, if there was only one photo of that situation, if they could have had this to say, no, here's the file,
CIA,
here's the encrypted, CIA, here's the CIA. They say it's real, so it must be real. Here's the encrypted data from that exact moment when I took that shutter and an unedited file. maybe that's enough for, to sort of quell that stuff if you don't have a million other cameras and videos and a live stream of the event like they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it gets back to what Greg Cromie said, people will believe what they want to believe, and doesn't matter how much information you put in front of them. Oh, it's fake.
Yeah.
You can't fix that.
No, you can't beat the Trumpsters.
You can't fix stupidity.
That's
very good.
Where's this other one more comment from Nev? I think this is why Fujifilm has become mediumly popular, not as popular as other brands, but still doing okay, is because they have really marketed straight out of camera. I've noticed Lumix cameras has the LUTs now, and maybe it's helping bridge the gap between smartphone users and cameras. I've paraphrased. I agree. Fujifilm really did pioneer that with, their look. What do they call them? Film simulations.
Film sims, especially the X100 series, because they have always marketed that at, not always, but in the last sort of 3 generations especially, they've really marketed that at, this is a do-it-all camera for people that don't want a camera, or for people that don't want to use their smartphone. And you can get these gorgeous straight out of camera looks with film sims, and they are amazing shots.
Don't get me started on straight out of camera, which is an invitation to get me started on straight out of camera.
So hang on, are you pro or con straight out of camera, Greg?
I enjoy it, but I think that the term is misleading, or people use it.
Yeah.
Have the wrong.
Oh,
ones.
yeah. Yep.
People think straight out of camera means realism. This is what was in front of me. I've manipulated it. But every single aspect of your camera is manipulating an image.
Yes.
You choose the shutter speed, that manipulates it. You choose the aperture, that manipulates it. Your lens has coatings on it, that manipulates the color. When you point a camera at something, you are manipulating the image. You're cropping. You're deciding which bit of reality in front of me I'm going to record.
I've got a book on that. I'm interested to see if you know it. I'll be back. 1 second. You guys keep discussing.
So to me, straight out of camera, people think, oh, this is reality. But it's not. You've changed so many things. You decide how you're going to present that picture to people. So you're manipulating and changing and altering things all the time with your photo. All along the way, every step of the way, every choice you make manipulates the picture.
Have you read this book?
Errol Morris. No, I haven't.
Believing is Seeing, Observations on the Mysteries of Photography. And it digs into that a lot, about what is reality and what we're showing. And they use this image as one of the examples. And like so this image, probably can't quite see it. It's a road.
I've seen that.
During a war, and then there's this image with, I think they're cannonballs strewn all across the road for a war photograph. And they actually placed the cannonballs on the road for this shot. So it's early.
I've seen this online. It might have been a review of the book actually, or something. But
and it's very much about how every part of, like you say, what you leave in the frame, what you exclude from the frame, everything.
The time of day you go there.
Is creating what he calls a lie.
In my work as a photojournalist, the rules are you do not change anything. You don't post-process your image to get rid of things, or you have to produce reality. But you go to an event, and I've turned up at some events, and I'm thinking, there's not much happening here. This is really dull. Hardly anybody, nothing's happening. So I move in close, so I fill the frame with people and stuff, and you give the impression, action, a lot of people there, blah, blah, blah. But if I pan back, there'd be empty space. And you get the same thing in Melbourne if you go there and some protesters on or something, and not much is happening. Then you get in close and you make it look like full on.
Yeah.
And in reality, there's 20 people.
Yeah.
So you're just shifting it up or downstream. Like you can do that You can do that with AI editing in Lightroom, or you can do it with your brain, your knowledge of how a camera and a lens operates, and your position and moving around the frame and sort of and it's
and every choice you make manipulates it.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I do think there needs to be some line where it's like, okay,
we accept that there's a camera. We accept that we're making choices.
yes, exactly. But
This is what we can do.
Yep.
Sorry,
we
Justin,
don't
yep.
accept. We don't accept you adding a crowd to a shot or
Yeah.
removing
Or
a crowd or
bin
whatever.
chickens and bats.
Exactly. Like they were either there or they weren't.
Yeah.
And it's sort of interesting though, because everyone thinks it's black and white, and you're right, it's not. There's a definitely a whole spectrum of what can be done to manipulate what you're going to show people, and that's what. Yeah. So if anyone wants to explore that topic in more detail, Errol Morris believing is seeing. I found this at an op shop, so good luck. I don't know. It'll be somewhere.
Yeah, it'll be somewhere. Very good.
Super interesting.
It is a very interesting topic, and I think it'd be interesting to watch the AI space. And I'm also a writer, and I'm very conscious of how AI has impacted my industry, and that of my partner Sasha, who's a university lecturer, and having to contend with students using chatbots to complete their assignments and their written tasks. So there's all levels of stupid in that space as well. So
Levels of stupid.
it really is. But yeah, so we'll have to sit tight and watch it, work out where we fit into the space. And I think it's just like another one of those evolutions of visual creation, where it's like we said, we have to accept that there's a camera.
Yeah.
We have to accept that, we're capturing a reality with tools that, yes, we manipulate to some degree. And will AI be accepted as just another will AI be welcomed as just another thing that we have to accept as part of the creation process, or will it pass? So it'd be interesting to see. But I did see an interesting meme on that subject where someone was saying AI should be created to do all the boring tasks so that we can get out and take photos and create art and write beautiful stories with our real brain, rather than the way it is at the moment, where AI is taking all the creative tasks from us and leaving us with the mundane. So it's interesting. It is interesting. Should we jump to the news of the week?
Yeah, what news we got?
Well, Western Digital have been at it again. I recently bought a SanDisk portable SSD. It's only a 1 terabyte, but I use it for my working Lightroom folder. Justin scared the crap out of me when I was with him a couple of weeks ago, because he mentioned that he was pretty sure they were the drives that were failing. So,
well, they were. I don't know if yours was, but they did. They had some problems.
How do I know? I know I should check the serial number, but I like to live dangerously. Let's jump to this bit of news about some digital. Can everyone see that playing along at home? Let me just...
yeah, it's up.
Make that a bit bigger. Western Digital is developing a new 8 terabyte SD card under the SanDisk brand. Wow. 8 terabytes.
Not big enough.
No. Not when all you do is shoot continuous high bursts.
Yeah, that's right.
On your Fujifilm 100.
Yeah. But 8 terabytes, it kind of made me a bit nervous. Like I think I'm using a 128 gigabyte. Granted, I'm not an event photographer or a sports photographer. I'm just a lowly street photographer. But 8 terabytes, a lot of data. And what if it went wrong? What if you thought, I won't back it up until I fill it up. And you had a card read error or a fail, or you lost it.
True. I would push back a little bit and say then that the card's probably not for you. We used to get that a lot. So when Jim and I, when I say we, me and Jim, who is not here this week, we started shooting weddings, and my policy with Jim was we buy the best cards we can. We buy the biggest cards we can afford. We put them in our camera at the start of the day. 2 cards, always shot to cameras that had backups. We shot RAW to both.
Yep.
and we did not take those cards out for the entire day. Now, all of the other photographers around town, they use smaller cards and they would swap them out through the day because if something went wrong, they wanted to only lose part of the day and not all of the day. And my rationale was this. There is way more likelihood of something going wrong swapping cards than there is a card just erroring out in the camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the chance of that happening to both cards is very unlikely. Stolen camera could happen. We were willing to take the risk of that with our lives. And we also said if we lose part of the day, we might as well have lost the whole day because it's a massive mistake. So that was our procedure, and we never had an issue with more than one card. We have had once or twice had a card fail, error. There was one day I think Jim had to pull a card out of the camera because the camera didn't want to shoot anymore. So he literally just ripped one out, put it in his pocket, kept shooting to one until he had a chance to put a new card in that other slot.
Yeah.
So in that regard, if someone's using this for big video files, like long shoots, and they just need that space, if it means that they don't have to swap cards during the shoot, it's worth it. But you're probably right. If the plan is to not attach that like to your computer for however long it takes a street photographer to fill up 8 terabytes, that's pretty risky.
It's a couple of years.
It could be years. But I actually did this. So when I traveled for 10 weeks with the Leica, the photos are still on. I've got a 256 gig in the Leica SD card. They're still on there. But I attached it regularly, downloaded everything. So it was a rudimentary backup, as in I've got the photos in my camera and I've got them on my computer, and I threw them on a hard drive every now and then as well, because I always back up to 3 spots. But it was sort of like, a rudimentary backup by having them stay in the camera forever, essentially.
Yep.
So that's where I would think. I wouldn't be the first one to buy that 8 terabyte card, though. I'd let someone else test it out.
Yeah, 8 terabytes is going to be expensive.
And when
especially
you push the
getting
limits,
a pro grade.
Yeah, if you push the limits of size as well, it's always far more expensive, and there's a chance it might, you might get some failures in that first run when they're still kind of figuring it out. So I wouldn't run out and grab it. But
and I wonder how long, if you are going to record even video up to 8 terabytes of data, I think your camera would overheat and shut down before you filled the card.
On a camera that's SD equipped, probably. Yeah, I would probably say so.
I don't know. CF Express.
Yeah, I don't know many cameras. Yeah, that are just SD that could handle that kind of. If you're shooting like 8K, I don't think anything shoots 8K to SD card that I know of at the moment. I'm not sure. So yeah, it's interesting. It'd be interesting to know who they say that card's for. Like we've developed this for what purpose?
Yeah, they don't really say. It's all speculation. But they are also bringing out a 4 terabyte micro SD. It says it somewhere in this article. They're also bringing out a 4 terabyte micro SD. And let me just stop that for a sec. Sorry, guys. So they're going to do the 8 terabyte UHS-1 only, so it's not even really fast enough.
Okay, well, that's kind of weird.
So it's almost like a bit of a, we've got the biggest and the best for no reason at all. And a 4 terabyte micro SD. So that's a stunning amount of data on something the size of your fingernail, your little fingernail.
It is.
Crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. Yeah, that is
like
actually crazy.
How does it work?
Yeah.
Well, they're obviously thinking about video as well, not just stills.
Yeah. Well, but like I say, that kind of, it'd be interesting to know what sort of applications there are for long-term lower res video for these things. And also I was just thinking potentially audio. Maybe trail cameras. Exactly. That's what I'm just trying to think of, like other applications, like, hey, we set up this camera, it's just going to run for days or weeks or something at a live music venue or something that has throw the SD card in the soundboard and you just literally record every set of every band always or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to think. There might be applications that are lower data transfer for UHS-1, but just long time durations with no overheating issues. So maybe we're just not in that world.
Maybe we're not.
It is still crazy though. Like what's this? This is 5 terabyte.
Yeah, I got one of those.
It's awesome. It's nice and big. Like nice and big as in 5 terabytes is a lot of space.
Yeah. And what did they go to the moon with?
8.
Like with bytes?
Yeah. They didn't go to the moon. Don't be silly, Greg. Yeah. That was all in a studio.
SanDisk also, one last little bit of news about the memory and the storage business. They're also developing what they call the first ever, it's got a big asterisk next to it, 16 terabyte portable SSD proof of concept. So in other words, they're thinking about it. Proof of concept means that they can show it works. But and they're also going to do a 16 terabyte SanDisk desktop version. Which is interesting. It's and again, it brings up that whole, the cost will be monumental to begin with. And if you're storing that much data, you really want to back up.
Yes.
So, maybe you need 2 of them.
So you need 2 of them.
Three.
3 places.
3 places. One
not
of them
keeping them
offsite. Yeah. Always.
Yeah, or not keeping it all on your camera forever. I remember Western Digital a couple of years ago, they brought out, it might be longer now, they brought out a drive. It was like a square little number. It was probably about the size of a sandwich. And it had an SD slot, and you could just plug your SD in it. It would just automatically dump it all onto the drive without having to plug it into a computer or anything.
There was one called a NARBox as well. You remember that?
No, I don't remember that one.
Does it still exist? NARBox.
No, you're making that one up.
Oh, well. Allow me to prove you wrong.
All right.
Hang on. Let it share my screen. NARBox. $125 used. It's still on a couple of websites, but I'd say, this is a battery. This is it. They were expensive. So like 1 terabyte, SD slot, a few other things. And then, it was water and dust shock resistant. You would basically just plug your card in and it ran an auto backup.
Yep.
I think now with cards getting so much bigger, these have kind of become redundant.
Yeah.
If you can get a 1 terabyte CF Express, like why would you buy this kind of thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. But there was a few of those things that sort of come out and then they seem to disappear as well.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a video on here. There's a video on YouTube that's literally called "NARBox is dead." So I'll look into that.
There
later.
you go.
See what
if it's on YouTube.
Happened.
I mean,
it's got to be true.
Yep. That's all the news I had for this week. It's been a bit of a slow period. Never's posted one last comment. Thanks for the show, guys. Really enjoying it. Have to head off. Have a great weekend. Everyone stay safe. Thanks, Nev. Same to you, mate.
Thanks for hanging out.
It was great chatting to you last week. We are about to wrap up the show, but before we finish up, I just want to thank everyone who's been watching along live with us and commenting.
Hi, Mum.
Oh, that's our one viewer. Make sure she subscribes, okay?
Yeah.
But before we do wrap up, Justin, what have you got in store, creatively speaking, for the week ahead?
Oh, man, I've got to come up with some ideas to do these daily shoots to start expanding my horizons. I don't want to just walk into town every day and see what I can find. So I'm going to come up with some themes. I'm going to get on my whiteboard and come up with some ideas. I'm going camping with my nephew on Friday night. So I think that'll be an opportunity for get some nice sort of camping shots of him hanging out with the fire and stuff.
Yep.
And otherwise I really just I'd like to explore some smaller regional towns as well, like do kind of a early morning photo walk through a smaller town. I think that might be a fun way for me to explore a little bit and also see what I can get photography wise. So that's about it. Got another mountain bike shoot on Monday. If anyone's ever wanted to know what it's like to do hybrid photo and video of mountain biking, I've got a video up on that, and it's my worst performing video, but it's actually the most interesting one, I think. Apparently no one's too fussed about it, but
it's very specific.
It's quite specific. I mean, you could apply it to any sport, but just switching between photo and video modes, using variable ND filters, settings, that kind of stuff, how to frame up a shot for different purposes. Yeah, I don't know. I had fun making it, but no, don't often watching it. So check it out.
Cool.
What about
Mr.
you?
Carrick,
Oh,
what have you got on?
Yes, Greg.
Well, I'm going to be discovering the joys of fisheye lenses.
Oh,
I recently, well, it came yesterday. I bought a couple because I use the GFX system and the X system. So for the GFX system, I bought an old vintage Pentax 17mm, I think it's f4 fisheye lens. That's going on the GFX. It's got an M42 screw mount. And for the X series, I bought very cheap 7 Artisans 7.5mm. I think it's 2.8. And that's like ultra wide, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I've never had fisheyes before, so I'm going to really go overboard finding out what they're good for.
nice. That will be fun to see.
Sometimes they're good for accidentally getting your feet in the shot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had that problem before. I'm like, oh, there's my toes.
I had to play around with, I think it's Lauer Venus Optics. I think they had a 4mm for X mount.
4?
Yeah.
What would that equate to? 4mm? So like an 8mm? No.
6.
6.
Whoa.
Yeah.
6. But yeah, that you could not get your feet, your head, everything was in shot, and the image was spherical, like it was impossible to flatten them out properly, you know. So it's a very specific use case for a lens, but you know, you can have a lot of fun, especially when you've got leading lines and you know,
Well,
disappearing
the good thing about
points of view and
the GFX is it's also a full frame camera. You can choose
yeah, true.
to use either medium format sensor or as a full frame 35mm. And for those fisheye lenses, I've switched it to 35mm, and you no longer have the bit of vignetting around the corners. And
Yeah, you just crop it in. Nice.
Yeah.
And you don't
And
lose
you're
much
using
resolution at all.
yeah, you're using it as the lens's native focal length then. So
Yeah.
Oh, very
Interesting.
nice. Nice. Well, we look forward to seeing the results of that one, Greg.
Yeah. So will that be a YouTube video one day?
yeah, it'll be a bit of fun. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
And what about you, Greg? What are you going to do? You got some ideas to get yourself out and about taking photos?
Yeah, I think I'm going to head out this afternoon. Typically after we finish a podcast, I treat myself to lunch at the Paran Market. I feel like I've earned it. So I think, it's not too bad a day in Melbourne at the moment. So I think I'll take my X70 out and just maybe I'll look for a particular color. Maybe I'll hunt for red and just see what I find, to see what I come across, you know, and try to build some compositions with red elements in it and see what happens.
Nice.
Yeah, you can do the selective color thing on the Fujifilm, so it's just the red and then black and white.
Yeah, I've never actually done that.
In
I haven't seen
camera.
it done.
Yeah.
Like that classic shot of it'd be like a flower in the shot and then everything else is black and white, but the flower's red.
Yeah.
You can do that in camera on Fuji's.
Yeah, and you can
That's
choose different
nuts.
colors. Do you want green or red or yellow?
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's why Fuji's are superior.
I don't know if that particular style makes them superior. That's definitely something that was like when you're becoming a wedding photographer,
gimmick.
that was the first thing everyone would tell you is like, do not do that.
Don't
Never ever do that.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Don't tell me what not to do.
Yeah, exactly. Now you'll have a new video
Yeah,
out.
you triggered
Selective
Greg
colour. Yeah.
I
triggered
shot
him
the whole
again.
wedding in selective color.
Yeah. Everything will be yellow. But look, before we wrap up, I just want to thank Greg for joining us as a co-host this week. Great to have you back on board. Always wonderful to have your insights and obviously your experience in the craft is unparalleled. So thanks, mate. It's been an absolute buzz having you back.
Wow,
Thanks,
you can write a review for me.
Yeah, good.
Unparalleled.
Unparalleled.
Unparalleled wisdom. And Jim's not going to be back next week, is he?
No,
He'll be gone
I
for a
don't think so.
couple of
I'm not
weeks.
sure. He's not back till like the 1st of September. So we'll send him a link next week and hassle him and see where he's at. See if he can log on for a couple of minutes and tell us what he's been up to.
Yeah. All right. But look, thanks for watching along at home, everyone. Thanks for those people that have commented. And if you're watching this when it's no longer live, you can watch it on our YouTube channel, The Camera Life, brought to you by Lucky Straps. And please feel free to add questions, comments, topics you think we should discuss, guests you think we should get on, or even if you want to be a guest, if you're a photographer or a visual creative of some kind, then drop us a line and we'll go from there. Oh,
if you do want a camera strap, right next to Greg's head. Yeah, look at that. That if you scan that code, you'll get 15% off our leather camera straps and belts if you need a belt. So, if that's you, check it out.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks, lads. Enjoy the rest of your day and the weekend ahead. And for everyone else,
Greg.
make sure you get out and shoot.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.
No worries.
Bye for now.